gentlemen, welcome back to the show. Today is Friday, December 12th, 2025. Sherrone Moore, who obviously had been detained, has been arraigned, and the charges have been released, so we're going to get into that. Looks like he has a felony and two misdemeanors, and we're going to address these topics. Make sure you guys hit that like, hit that thumbs up, and of course, if you're new to the channel, make sure you do subscribe for sports content, live streams, and more. All right, so let's get into this one. Sherrone Moore, it's worse than what I thought, right? We talked about the situation when it happened, when it was breaking, but now we're getting a little bit more as far as what the charges are for, what he did, and exactly what's going to happen moving forward. So let's go ahead and get into this one. Here. So it goes on to say that fired Michigan coach Sherrone Moore charged with 3 crimes. Former Michigan football coach Sherrone Moore faces 3 criminal charges as his arraignment Friday revealed details of his actions that led to him being arrested and jailed hours after he was fired Wednesday. Prosecutors charged Moore with felony third-degree home invasion and 2 misdemeanors, stalking in a domestic relationship and breaking and entering. Bond was set at $25,000. The arraignment and charges... Oh, sorry, I can't really see this. It's super bright. The arraignment and charges offered a window into Moore's actions after he was fired for cause due to an inappropriate relationship with a staff member. All right, so we know the basis of what's going on here. The charges basically seem to be accurate as far as with the story as we continue on. Goes on to say prosecutors said Friday that Moore forced entry into the staff member's apartment and said, "I'm going to blank myself. I'm going to make you watch. My blank is on your hands. You ruin my life." So we got to pause now, right? We got to pause now because it matches up kind of with the story. It was a little bit different from what we first heard, but now we're getting exactly what she meant by what was said in that phone call to the authorities. So first off, this is simp behavior. We got to start there, number one. Not only did you put yourself in this situation, but you went to this young woman's house, you traumatized her, you broke in her house, you basically said that you were going to harm yourself and basically try to put things on her in regards to the situation that obviously was initiated by you. Regardless if she participated, you started it. You were a married man. You basically started it. You had an affair. So, and this thing had been going on for years. We'll get into that later. This thing had been going on for years. So this is the ultimate crash out. When you get fired, obviously, you know, your family's going to find out, your wife's going to find out, your children's going to find out. So this is the ultimate crash out to go back to the young woman's house after she broke up with you on Monday. But let's continue on. It says Moore appeared by video conference at the arraignment, stating his name and clearly answering 2 questions with "Yes, Your Honor." He wore a white jumpsuit, his expression sullen and hands folded on his lap. He appeared to wince as the prosecutor went through the timeline of his actions. First Assistant Prosecutor Katie Rezmirsky derailed the timeline of Moore's actions after the firing. As he barged his way into the woman's apartment, he went to a drawer in the kitchen and grabbed several butter knives and a pair of kitchen scissors before threatening to take, as you can see there. Yeah, like I said, this is the ultimate crash out. It's showing tenderism. And unfortunately, you know, you've decided to put yourself in this situation and to take it out on someone else. It's not a good look. Continuing on. The prosecutor also detailed that Moore had an intimate relationship with the woman he worked with for a number of years before she ended the relationship on Monday. So now the relationship went on for multiple years. She decided to break things off on Monday. So we're not sure as far as how the investigation happened by Michigan itself when they were looking into things, then and kind of why it just went away. But if she broke up with you on Monday, did she know that something was coming down the pike? Did she tell somebody to release this information so it can be investigated? Because it was very abrupt. It was very abrupt as far as how everything happened. You got fired immediately. There was no time for anybody to figure anything out. So as far as this situation, if she broke up with you on Monday, You got fired on Wednesday and you ended up in handcuffs. Was this a situation of, hey, maybe you told her that you was going to leave your family for her. She got mad about it and, cut things off. When it told a couple people, got mad at you. I'm interested to see as far as what's going to happen next, because I'm very surprised that we're not looking at a civil suit yet. We know how that goes as we continue on. It says Moore's actions in the wake of his former lover breaking up with him led to her to go to officials at Michigan and detail the relationship. The school had previously investigated a tip about the situation, sources have told ESPN, but could not prove it occurred. So there you go. Like I said, from what it sounds like, typical couple-year relationship. He could have told her, hey, I'm not going to leave my wife for you. She got mad. They broke up. And then she went back and told everybody what they wanted to know. Gentlemen, in positions of power, in a job or any other circumstance, it's never okay to cheat on your spouse. It's never okay to cheat on your family. It's never okay to to just be frank with you, shit where you eat. Because this is exactly what Sherrone Moore decided to do and put himself in this situation. There is no sympathy. There is no sympathy for this kind of behavior at all. But we'll continue on. Says the woman, I'm sorry, let me go back. The woman's admission and supporting evidence led to the school to quickly dismiss Moore for cause, saying he violated both his contract and university policy. Michigan will not have to pay more than nearly $12.3 million remaining dollars on his deal because he was fired for cause. The woman called police after Moore barged into her apartment as Riz Mirsky called Moore's behavior a series of very, very threatening, intimidating, and terrifying statements and behaviors. Some of the conditions of what Moore's $25,000 bond includes is a GPS tether monitoring, no contact with the woman, and orders not to go to the woman's residence. There's a probable cause conference set for January 22nd. Moore's defense attorney, Joe Simon, declined to say where Moore was staying. He also wouldn't comment on Moore's state of mind or mental health. Simon said that Moore had undergone mental health evaluation and was turned back over to law enforcement. So there you go. There's no other way to put this situation. It's very sad. It's very unfortunate. But we can't overlook the fact that this guy made the decisions. This guy absolutely made the decisions that led up to this point. And so, having an affair with, your someone that's a staff member or someone, your subordinate who's under you, it almost never works. We've got so many stories and so many tales of these kind of things happening, and nobody's learned anything. We're still seeing these situations to this day. It's wild to me. It's absolutely wild to me. Let me hop into the chat. Shout out to the Ranch Gang. Shout out to the family. I appreciate all of y'all. DJ G in the building. What up, man? What's going on with you? He has now simply thrown his life away. 100%. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Purple says when you have a winning team, you get away with a lot, even the players. And I do think that there's going to be a lot. I don't think this is the only story out there that's going on, right? Everyone's not perfect in the world. We get that. So it really, makes you question, well, what else is going on around the country with all these other colleges? I mean, there's thousands of other colleges out there, right? There's other program organizations. There's all kinds of stuff going on. We've had stories like this similar in the past. So it really makes you question, well, what else is going on out there that's not being talked about, that's being hidden by a great football program and a great football organization and millions of dollars and NIL deals? What else is being swept under the rug? These are the real questions that people are going to start asking. And like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing more stories like this. Shout out to Jeff King in the building. What up, man? Says there are repercussions for everything we say or do, and nobody is accountable for them more than ourselves. I'm sorry, my sympathy level for this gentleman is at a maximum for his family. Yeah, I agree, right? There's no sympathy for Sherrone Moore at all. You've put yourself in this situation. You did what you did. And so, just like anybody else, you have to be held accountable and you have to deal with what comes next, right? You have to deal with the repercussions. But as far as the family goes, right? I'm assuming that, this man was the breadwinner for the family. And, the kids are going to be asking questions now. The wife is traumatized. Maybe she knew or maybe she didn't know about the affair. Maybe it was something they were working through. We haven't heard any kind of, comments from her yet. But just to think about the family and everyone else, the parents and, the parent-in-laws, the in-laws, that whole family is now, being scrutinized for something that this man did. And everyone's going to have to talk about it and everyone's going to have to, answer for it in some kind of way, just as far as for having a conversation. It's really nasty stuff. And, these are the kind of situations that people who are in power or have, any kind of influence have to think about when they get in these kind of situations. It's absolutely sad. So once again, you got to start, and I'm not going to mention the particulars of, hey, he was the first black coach in Michigan history, right? I'm not going to mention that because that's irrelevant, right? People are saying, oh, well, he's messed it up for, all the other potential black coaches to go to Michigan. No, I think Michigan's in a state of mind that's saying, well, at this point we did have a black coach and unfortunately he made some bad decisions. John Harbaugh made some bad decisions. All right. So I think at the end of the day, they're going to be looking at the best candidate for the job. And that's the reality of it. But specifically for Sherrone, I don't think he's going to be a football coach anywhere ever again. He's going to have to find a new line of work. He's going to have to find out, or he's going to have to find a different avenue for income, because I think his career as far as any kind of like a head coach or with a football program as prestigious as Michigan is over at this point. Let me get back into the chat. Goes on to say, one second. Over the years, we've had many football players with DUIs that were wiped clean. Yeah, but people never let them down, right? We see that all the time. People, get their, situations with domestic violence or, DUIs kind of just, unless it was, as severe as a Henry Ruggs or something like that, those are the situations that are, carry major weight because of what happened. But a lot of the minor stuff, the minor infractions, a lot of that stuff gets swept under the rug and nobody really talks about it and they just move on. For sure. What up, George? Shout out to you, man. Good to see you. Says, what kind of prison will he go to? Fence community like Maxwell. I'm not sure. I do think that, depending on his history, right, it's really hard to say, right? Because they could plead it down. He could say that, he's addicted to certain things and then have to go to counseling and do community service and, get probation and things like that. There's so many different ways that, the situation could play out, especially if you have a decent attorney that you put some money into. So, y'all, what up, man? Shout out to you, Big Ron in the building. Good to see you. Good to see you. Bass player says, what up, Jay? A story as old as time. Why does it happen during the holidays? Look, I think that was, the situation is very significant, obviously, right? And it's very bad. There's no other way to put it. But to have everything come crashing down right before the holidays, right? You lose your job. Whether your wife knew or not, now she knows, the kids know, right? Their dad's in the news every day. You've lost out on $12.3 million now. The number was 14. Now it's updated to 12.3. It's just a lot. The family's now talking about it. Just imagine, this situation's going on and you had, Christmas parties planned and you had New Year's parties planned. And now you're not going to show up to those parties. You don't want to stare people in the face and talk about this kind of situation. You don't want to do that. So, Christmas is canceled. New Year's is canceled. Maybe someone can figure out a new resolution because they're going to need it. They're going to need it for sure. Says we have flooding all around us. Yeah, man. It's crazy. Jay, is your Cash App the same? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is. Appreciate you, Big Ron. Much love. Basketball players too. We've seen it time and time again. Time and time again. Ken Gibson, big game Sunday, go Bills. Man, listen. We could talk about it. We covered the Sherrone situation. Obviously, we'll keep going through that as things develop. But yeah, we can get into the Bills. The Bills and the Patriots. I was going to save my predictions for tomorrow, but I'll give you guys a sneak peek. I don't think it's going to be as simple as everyone thinks it's going to be. Right? Oh, well, we'll swap. Patriots took the first one and Bills will get the second one. It's not going to be that easy. You have a whole new slate of gameplay, of game schemes that the Patriots have designed under Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel is now out to prove a point. And guess what? I'm not the only one thinking that Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane are on the hot seat when it comes to this specific game. Because guess what? As good as the record looks and you basically know you're going to the playoffs and all that kind of stuff, you're now asking yourself, okay, what happens if you can't beat the Patriots? What happens then? Now you're looking at the Texans and the Broncos in a whole new light. And guess what? Everyone's watching the tape. Everyone's watching the tape when it comes to the playoffs because you don't have that same steam that you had in the previous years. You're looking a little vulnerable now. You're looking a little weary now. And so with these strong defenses in the Broncos and the Texans, Chargers, Colts, Patriots, your own division, it's looking a little serious come Sunday. So if you don't win this game, I think the conversations are going to turn up a little bit more, and there's going to be a lot more people saying what I've been saying over the years. But with that said, I got to ride my Bills. Regardless, I got to ride with my Bills. Y'all know how this goes. But I'm just saying, don't be surprised if it goes the other way because there's going to be a lot of good football played. It's going to be a dogfight, and it's not going to be easy to get a win. Not at all. All right, let me get back to the chat. As Boggs003 says he won't do any time. He'll have to address the mental health issues and get probation. Yeah, I agree. And I think that's the reality. Now, let's back up here, right? Because there's a lot of people who did have, things misunderstood or didn't understand when things were first reported. He didn't get arrested for the relationship, right? She was an adult. It was consensual, right? They were in a relationship for a couple of years, which is documented and inaccurate. And she broke things off, right? She broke things off on Monday. The issues come into the breaking and entering, right? The breaking and entering, and then, of course, making threats to harm himself, of course, in her presence, and then traumatizing her based on that. That's where the charges come into play. And so, I think if he would have never did that side of things, yes, the situation would have still blown up, but it wouldn't have been as significant as far as from a criminal standpoint. This would have just most likely been more of a moral point and maybe a civil if she decides to go that route, which it was a consensual thing, so I don't think she can or she will. Who knows? But I think at this point, with everything that's reported, it only turned criminal because he decided to cash out or crash out. It only turned criminal because he decided to go insane because his world was crumbling based on something that he did, which is absolutely insane to me. How can you go to someone else and tell them that they ruined your life when you made the decision to deal with this individual and you were already married? It's insane. So yes, it is a mental health issue. It is a mental illness that needs to be addressed, and he needs to take care of and make sure that he gets the proper care and fix some things mentally and, of course, physically and spiritually. Most important, take it to God for sure. But there's no excuse for it. There's no excuse for it when you're making decisions out here and when you're doing things that don't align with the standard of what you should hold yourself up to, or don't, don't align with your morals and, what you may have said in your vows and things like that, or what you did say in your vows, I think you really got to start questioning your character, and maybe you need to pump the brakes as far as your decisions. And maybe if Sherrone Moore had, a mentor, or if Sherrone Moore actually had someone he could talk to, even as a grown man, someone could have encouraged him to go a different route so he wouldn't be making these kind of decisions and unfortunately, ruin his life. So there you go. There you go. Shout out to you, Ken Gibson. What up, man? Base players is how many sacks will Myles Garrett have this year? How many is he at now? What's the number? Let me know. What's the number? I don't know his exact number. We've got what? 3 more weeks left of football? 3 more weeks, y'all. 3 more weeks. I'm not going to mention this. I am mentioning it. Let's see. Let me go back through. Forgive me, folks, for being a little self-serving. Father's on the verge of crossing over. Any prayers you can muster for a stranger and his family would be greatly appreciated. Be well, folks. Jeff King is a huge part of this channel. He's been with us for a while. He's an OG. Prayers up for Jeff King. Much prayers for his family, and especially his father, who is on the verge of crossing over. Much love to you and yours, Jeff. We will have your father in our prayers, and we do wish him well in his health, and prayers that he gets better. For sure. Much love to you, Jeff. Much love to you. He said he's currently at 20. Let's see. I mean, I think if you go over under on the sacks, maybe 24. Maybe 24. Shout out to you, Shantae. What up? Good to see you. Good to see you. I think if you look at the sacks and the time frame that the Browns have, I'm thinking 24. Over under. So, but yeah, much love to you, Jeff. And like I said, prayers up for your father. It's sad to hear that, but God is always in the midst, man. God is always in the midst for sure. For sure. Appreciate you. Record is 22.5. Listen, it's quite possible. Who do the Browns play? Let me look it up. Let me look it up real quick. As more packages? Oh, we got more packages. All right, here we go. Let me look at the Browns' schedule real quick. See who they got left. So you got the Bills, and then you got the Steelers. Right? You got the Bears on the 14th. So you got the Bears on Sunday. Then you got the Bills, and then you got the Steelers, and then of course the Browns again. Yeah, I think he'll hit 24, bro. I think he'll beat the record. Says I got Josh Allen going in final fantasy football this week, and Drake on bench. Tough choice on who to play. Yeah, I mean, I think Drake's very consistent, right? He's very consistent. He's averaging right around between 250 and 300 yards a game. So I think right there, you know what you're going to get yards-wise, touchdowns, maybe 2, right? I think the difference in what you get with Josh Allen is you get the rushing, right? You get the rushing. He'll run it in for a couple touchdowns. He'll try to get that. It's right around 250, couple touchdown passes. That's the beautiful thing about Allen. He can get you 30 points in a Sunday, fantasy-wise. So, yeah, I don't think it's a hard choice. I think with what he's able to do as far as on his legs and in the air, he's a good pick for fantasy against Drake May. Without a doubt. All right, y'all. So with that said, college football, bowl games are coming up soon. I'm going to build a schedule for that for you guys. We'll get back into the bowl games before we get to the national championship, which is what we always do in January. So I'm excited for that. Obviously, we got the Bills and the Patriots Sunday. I will be streaming that, so make sure you guys lock it in. Make sure you're here for that as well. December 19th, we got Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua. Heavyweight fight. I know. I'm a fiend for boxing, and I don't like Jake Paul. But Anthony Joshua is a good fighter, so maybe we can get the kind of fight that we've been wanting, right? Tank Davis messed it all up, and so now we got Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua. So I'll be streaming that December 19th. It'll most likely be streamed against my better wishes or my better thoughts. But hopefully it's fun. Hopefully it's exciting. We had a good time for the Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight, even though we knew it was rigged and it was garbage. But it was a good time. We had a lot of people here. It was fun. So we'll be doing that as well. So there you go. All right, y'all. Much love to the Wrench Gang. Much love to the family. If you do watch this later, make sure you comment down below. Let me know what you think. And we'll see you guys on Sunday. Peace out.